Welcome to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
I'm heading back on the road, and boy, am I excited to share these dates with you. Starting with Friday, March 13th, I'll be at Monday Night Brewing in Birmingham, Alabama. Then I'm heading down to Orange Beach, Alabama, to headline Comedy on Canal on Saturday, March 14th. Then Sunday, March 15th, I'm heading back to Pensacola to headline at Club 27. Then I'm heading out west to feature for Ben Roy in Boulder at Comic Sense, March 19th to March 21st. Then I'm doing some spots around Denver before heading out to Tree Fort Music Festival in Boise, Idaho. I'll be there March 26th to March 28th. It's a fantastic festival, top to bottom. Catch some music, catch some comedy, and have some fun with us. Then I'm heading down to the Southwest to once again feature for Ben Roy at Laughs Tucson in Arizona. Then I'm going to Santa Fe, New Mexico to headline Cakes Cafe and Comedy Club on Sunday, April 5th. That's right, Easter Sunday. We're having some laughs in Santa Fe. Then I'm making my way to Dallas, where I'll be featuring for Cliff Cash at Dallas Comedy Club on April 9th. And then I'm headlining Dallas Comedy Club on Sunday, April 12th. All tickets and times are in the link in my bio on my Instagram at Will Abels Comedy. Come see a show. Welcome back to Chapter 7 of Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. Look at us. Look how far we've come. Who would have thought I would have made it 7 episodes? So, technically 8, if you count the prologue. Not me, but I'm here. So a couple of stray notes from the previous chapter before I get into this chapter. I got a couple of names wrong and a little bit of information wrong, but nothing too life-changing about the story. Found out I was never in Bozeman. No, I'm kidding. So first, and most importantly, I got one of the comics' names wrong. The comic that worked with Adam and I in Helena and Townsend, his name, I called him Titus. His name is Tytan Rosencrans, and that's on me, my fault. He's very funny, young comic. Keep an eye out for him. Also, Adam informed me that when he left Bozeman for Vegas, it wasn't to open for Dane Cook. He does open for Dane regularly, but he was actually going to Vegas to work at Brad Garrett's Comedy Club. So he was like, no. He's like, Daddy's flying solo on this one and representing Adam. So my bad there. Also very cool, though, that he got to go do that. And finally, I was in a bit of a tiff about a comedy club in Utah, and I just wanted to apologize. I called them Wisecrackers, which is not the name of the club. The club in Utah is called Wise Guys. So Wise Guys can suck my ass. Wisecrackers is actually a club chain in Pennsylvania that I have also worked with. It's been a while, but I had a wonderful experience with them. And if you are in Pennsylvania, go check them out. In 2018, no, it was actually 2019, sorry. I worked with them at State College, and then they added a show up in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, and that show in Lock Haven ended up being a very important show because it was at a Moose Lodge, and I learned that comedy is subjective, and not everyone's going to like you. When you do the road, you are going to go into areas and towns in this country that might not agree or see the same point of view as a 29-year-old living in Williamsburg, Brooklyn. I learned that then, and it's also sort of a precursor to what this trip is now, and it was an early road show for me, so it was important. So Wisecrackers, you're fantastic. Wise Guys, unless things change, fuck off. Okay, so here we are, Chapter 7. This is an important chapter in this whole story because it's not the most important mental health chapter, but a lot of things came up, and I didn't quite understand what was happening to me. And it was because it was bringing up some past. I don't like using the word trauma because trauma is just it's a blanket statement, but that's because there's trauma's on a spectrum. There's severe trauma, and there's just things that you're like, oh, okay, well, that kind of comes up whenever I'm around golden retrievers. You know what I mean? This was kind of like a golden retriever level of trauma because it's something that I can deal with, and I'm aware of it now, but in the moment I couldn't figure out what was happening to me. And then, funny enough, I had a similar situation happen in Portland, Oregon, where I could pinpoint the problem, and now I know what's going on. Like the ice storm, when we all lost power, that was a moment where I was like, oh, this thing is coming up again, and luckily I have the tools to take care of myself now. But when I was in the isolation of the woods in Idaho, I did not have those tools because I wasn't aware it was happening, and I also I literally didn't have the tools. Like I didn't have cell service. I couldn't call anyone. I couldn't do anything. But I'll get to that. So it was an important chapter, and I think it's interesting. It also ends with a really cool coincidence, and I just thought it was a cool section. So to bring you back, my anxiety levels are through the roof, and I know now that it's sort of cat and mouse game with drinking, where drinking calms me down, but then the next day it causes more anxiety, and that's just what drinking can do. I'm also stressed out because Adam's gone now. I'm on my own. I haven't gotten all of my housing lined up, and I knew that I could crash in my car in parking lots and rest stops, but I haven't been out west often enough to know that their rest stops are made for that. I'm thinking like Jersey Turnpike rest stops, right? So I'm thinking, all right, I'm going to have to do that like 3 or 4 times coming up, and I'm a little nervous. And the car's set up for it, I have a bed in there, I have all these things, but I'm just a little stressed out about that. And so I drop Adam off, don't even get out of the airport driveway or whatever you want to call it, and I open up a beer. Again, it's like 11 o'clock. It's not like I'm 7 a.m. grabbing a beer, but, it's not quite noon, you know what I mean? And I put the beer in my cup holder, and I'm trying to figure out what to do the rest of the day. So I'm just kind of sipping the beer, driving around, just sort of calming my nerves. And unfortunately, it did calm my nerves down, so I was able to make a decision. So my original plan was to go up to Missoula, camp for the night, and then I would make my way to Clark Fork in Idaho, and I would camp for 2 nights there, and then I would go over, pick up the rest of the trip and head over to Washington, mostly Seattle area, and do my shows there. And I'm driving around Bozeman, and I'm kind of like, I didn't really get to explore the city at all. I didn't get to really do much. I had gone there before with an ex, and we had a really good time there. But I felt like, okay, maybe I can try and reclaim this city for myself. And so I decided I was going to just find a place to park, get everything set up there, and then just sleep in my car and just get hammered in Bozeman for the night. And that's just what I was going to do. I was just going to walk around Bozeman, bar hop, and then eventually, the next day get up and head to Idaho. And I went and got a coffee first, and then I went into a bar that my ex and I actually went. And I don't know how to describe this. I call them ghosts, because they've happened a couple times in my life where I've gone to a place that I've shared an experience with an ex, or I don't know what else to call them. I don't have a girlfriend at the moment, so they're all exes. But where you share this moment with them, and you go back to this place, and you can feel their presence, and it's almost like you walk through the past. You can feel the two of you sitting there at the bar or at the venue or whatever it is. And I went to this bar, and I sat there for a minute. I ended up striking up a conversation with the guy next to me. He was local, and he was just telling me about all the changes in Bozeman and all that kind of stuff. And then I sat down at the table that my ex and I shared last time I was there. And I took a picture of her last time we were there, and it's genuinely one of my favorite pictures of her. And something in my body was like, well, we're not doing this in Bozeman today. And so I decided, you know what, let's go try this little day drinking extravaganza in Missoula. And so wrap it up there, head to Missoula, not far away, find a place to park, end up parking in a Cabela's parking lot. So I get rid of the car for the day, and then I go into town, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to walk around and day drink and explore a bit, and I really didn't see much. And honestly, I got kind of bored, and the weekend sort of caught up with me and I got tired. So got myself a meal, did a little bit of bar hopping, but like I think I was back to my car by like 8 or 9 o'clock. The other thing about being out there at this time, which is the end of May into June, it's probably June 1st at this point, it gets dark at like 11 p.m. And then the sun's back up at like 4:45 a.m. So you do have like no actual concept of time. But I get back to my car and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna try and get some sleep tonight. And there's another camper van in the parking lot. I don't feel that crazy about it, and yeah, I just get situated and I go to sleep. And so I wake up the next day. I have to get up to Clark Fork. It's like I think I woke up at like the crack of dawn. I think I'm up at like 5 a.m. And, I'm just in a parking lot in a Cabela's. There's like a mall nearby, but I don't have like, the coffee shops aren't even open yet. So I take a piss outside my car. I grab a water bottle. I'm like brushing my teeth. Really glamorous stuff and kind of where I thought my career would be going. And I make my way up to I go back into town first to get breakfast. And I walk around for a bit. And I'm just kind of, I'm getting that morning anxiety again, but I did get a pretty good night's sleep. And I'm sort of laughing at myself because I'm sleeping out of my car, I'm pissing in parking lots and brushing my teeth, and I still have the audacity to get on Hinge, and say no to a doctor. What, in what world should I even be allowed to judge a doctor in this scenario? It's just insane. Anyway, so walking around Missoula, and finally I'm like, all right, let's make my way up to Clark Fork. I check in with the Hip Camp host, and I drive in, and I think I made an announcement on Instagram because I remember Rob Wentz, who's a very funny comic here in Nashville, he's from that area, and he's like, hey, I'm from that area, watch out for skinheads. All I needed to know about the area I was going into. So I pull into this town, and it's a town of like 250 people, and I'm not exaggerating. It is so small and like just tiny. And I'm looking around, I'm like, all right, there's like 2 gas stations and a bar and like a market, and that's about it. But the place that I'm camping is like, I don't know, maybe 5 miles away from there. So I start going up into the woods, and as I'm getting up there, I'm noticing that my cell service is moving from 3 bars to 2 and 2 bars to 1. And at some point, I just lose service completely. And I was like, I don't love that. That's not my favorite. And then I get to the campsite, and I will say this, under different circumstances, this would have been such a perfect retreat. And I'd hope that this doesn't get back to like the camp hosts, because they were fantastic. Everything was fine. I just didn't read the fine print, and I just wasn't in the emotional state to be at this level of isolation, and that's on me. But I get all the way back there. I'm not really sure where to go. There's like an open field. There's woods all around. I did pass a house, so I know at least there's a house nearby. And I find this like little kiosk, and it's just got a walkie-talkie and a handwritten note that's like, hey, you're over there. If you need anything, just walkie us, but otherwise enjoy. And I'm like, fuck. like I said, my anxiety levels were kind of like simmering. They just explode. I'm losing my mind, and I'm like, okay. And I if you've ever had an anxiety attack, I don't think I had, because I think I would have, it wasn't a full-blown anxiety attack, but it's right there, like my body's shaking, my whole nervous system is just discombobulated, like I am just not doing great. So I find my campsite. It's this nice little spot by the creek. Again, should be perfectly relaxing and nice and simple, but I'm all over the place. And so I'm like, all right, just keep getting set up, and the sooner that you are like situated, you'll start calming down, right? Like you can make yourself a meal, you can make yourself a fire, you're going to calm down. I think I had like a couple beers left from the day before, like you're going to be fine. And so I start setting up camp a little bit. I'm moving around. It does start to subside, but it's just not happening. And I'm like, all right, let's stop. We haven't showered since we left the hotel with Adam, 36 hours ago. I didn't shower with Adam. It was a shared hotel room, okay? I showered separately. Some of you there are like, oh, you should. No, I didn't. We didn't. I'm saying that more for Adam than I am for me. Anyway, so anyway, I'm trying to calm myself down, and I'm like, what can you do to calm yourself down? There is a outdoor shower that was supposed to be heated. It wasn't, but I'm sitting there next to this creek, and I'm like, you know, you usually feel pretty good after a cold plunge. Let's see how cold this is. So I put my hand in. It is ice cold. I'm in Idaho. I'm in Northern Idaho, just to paint a better picture of where I'm at. It's freezing cold. It is as cold as a cold plunge. So I strip down to my shorts and I just lay in this creek, and it is, I mean, immediately jolts my system, but does not quite jolt it in the way I want. And I'm like, God, now I'm freezing and I got to figure out what to do. So I head to the shower thinking it's going to be a warm shower. It's not, and I was like, you know what, let's just rinse off. So I take a cold shower following the cold plunge, rinse off, and truthfully, after about 40 minutes, I did feel a lot better. But I have no service, and I'm genuinely, and I don't see any other campers. I don't see any other, like, I saw that one house coming in, but that's it. So I'm genuinely like, where am I? And there was this, the way it's set up is like the creek was here, my car was set up. No way I was setting up my tent. I'm like, I'm sleeping in my car because I am convinced there's bears watching me as I speak. And because there was this like shrubbery that had been like cleaned up so that the camp had like a flat surface for the tent and my car and stuff. But I couldn't really see past this line of shrubs. So I'm just assuming that there's like a cougar watching me or a bear, and I just can't relax, you know? All I have is this walkie-talkie to communicate with anybody. But I make myself dinner. I make like a pot of ramen noodles with some canned chicken, and that ended up being a staple meal for a lot of this trip. But it hit the spot. And then I make a fire, and I have a couple beers, and the fire and the beers and the food, it helped, as well as the cold plunge. It helped, but I'm not calming down. I'm not feeling great, and I don't really know what to do about the situation. And I'm also like, are people going to be looking for me? I did have a couple friends check in when I did eventually get service, which I do appreciate. Thank you. My mother being one of them. And that was nice. But otherwise, I'm losing my mind. So again, I go to bed pretty early. Sun's still out, but I'm tired enough. I was able to calm myself enough to go to sleep. Maybe slept 6 hours. I'm up with the sun, and I'm just sort of like, all right, I got to do something. Like, I can't stay up here this whole time. So I decided to backtrack, and so first thing I did is I walked around the property, and found out in that moment there was a cabin fairly close by, and eventually I would leave the property and to go back down to town, and I find out like just beyond where I could see on the other side of this field, there were like Airbnbs, like Airbnb like cabins and stuff, and I was like, okay, so I am not completely alone. They're back here. I saw chickens. I was like, all right, chickens aren't just walking around. They must, so that helped calm me down for night 2. But I don't know, so I don't really know what to do with myself, and I think, okay, well, let me see if I can get some work done or something. So I go back into town, and I'm just like looking for a coffee shop or something, and I don't know if I think the town is small enough that if you see a green Subaru with Tennessee license plates, you're like, you're not from around here, are you? Which is exactly what happened at a stoplight. Someone was like, hey, you're visiting? And I was like, yeah, I'm staying up that campsite. And they're like, oh, are you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm just looking, like, is there like a coffee shop with Wi-Fi? And she was like, no, but there's a spot, there's like a building I can take you to that has Wi-Fi. Like, you're not supposed to use it, but I can get you set up. And I was like, that's okay. Is there like just a coffee, like a place to get coffee that you would suggest? And they suggest basically what is a toll booth that was serving coffee. So it's probably 10 minutes outside of town. As I leave town, I finally get service back. And wow, just flooded with emails asking if I'm okay. I got like 3 texts that just like, hey, haven't heard from you in 24 hours. You didn't post in 24 hours. I'm just making sure you're alive. This is a wellness check. And I'm like, well, wellness-wise, not doing great, but, whatever. I'm fine. So I go to this toll booth coffee shop, and I'm kind of like leeching off their Wi-Fi, and the barista there, it's like just her working, and she's super nice, and she's like about my age, maybe a little bit younger, and get everything kind of set up. And then I come up to her, and I'm like, so like, what do because this is one of my things, is I don't make I love exploring a new town. I don't make a ton of plans when I go to that town. I like to just sort of see what happens, and normally if you meet a local, they'll recommend things. And so I was kind of like, what do people like do around here? And she's like, well, do you want to hike, or do you want to like hang out? Like, do you want to like go to like a town? And I was like, yeah, I want to go to a town because this is not it, And she's like, oh, okay, well, I live in a place called Sandpoint. It's like 35, 40 minutes away. That's where like there's music, there's venues, there's like coffee shops, there's breweries. Like, that's where you want to go. And I was like, great. And she's like, yeah, I live there, and like, that's where you want to go. And I was like, all right, that is the plan. So I plug it in, and I start going to Sandpoint, and it's only a town of 10,000 people, right? That's the population, but it is like a touristy spot. Once I got there, I found that out. But the thing is, like, when you're in a town of 250 and you go to a town of 10,000, you're in New York City. You're in the biggest city you've ever been in your entire life. You're like, oh my God, they have working toilets. This town had working toilets, but it blows your mind. And it was funny because later on, someone in Clark Fork, I mentioned being in Sandpoint, and they're like, oh God, it's terrible what's happening up there. And it's funny because I drove a guy for Uber today who's been living in Nashville for 40 years, and he was talking about crime, and he was like, oh, in New York, it's crazy what's happening there. And it's just so funny that everyone's like, ooh, more people, more crime, or whatever it is. That's not really what they're saying. I know what they're saying because they're just racist. Anyway, so I'm driving up to Sandpoint, gorgeous drive along a lake. The anxiety levels are calming down. All right, I have escaped my own prison that I have made for myself, and I'm gonna go. Also just having a plan helps. And sure, looking back, I wish I had gone hiking. Idaho, top to bottom, is just a gorgeous state. There's lots to do recreationally and outdoors and all that kind of stuff. So I pull into Sandpoint, and it's just the perfect town to hang out for the day. It's got like all these like renovated buildings that have been converted into like coffee shops, and it's like a taco truck, and it's like the early afternoon at this point, and I go to a brewery so I can get lunch. And that's one thing I do miss about drinking, is like I used to like exploring breweries and doing the craft beer thing, because they do taste different as you go around to different towns, different cities, that kind of stuff. So go to this brewery, have my computer with me, order some lunch, get a beer, working on my computer to justify what I'm about, that I'm just going to be hanging out. And as I'm sitting there, I'm starting to, I get a couple beers in me, and I started thinking, I really don't want to go back to this campsite. And I was like, well, let me check Bumble. What are the odds I find a mate in Sandpoint, Idaho, and I don't have to go back to my campsite? I don't have to finish this trip. What if we fall in love? And I live in Sandpoint, Idaho, and I walk around. I'm the only comic in town, and I walk around. I grow a beard down to my ankles, but I get a six-pack underneath the beard, and I'm just the hot Rip Van Winkle of Sandpoint. What if that happens, So I'm scrolling through Bumble, and I'm not gonna lie, I matched up pretty quick. I think my name must have been floating around in the last 24 hours. And I matched up with a couple people, but, they have to talk to you, because that's what Bumble is, and that's why it's not a great app, because no one talks to each other anyway, let alone just initiating one person having to talk. You cut that down by 50% if only one person initiates the conversation. Normally on apps, 100% of the people don't talk this way. I don't know how math works, but I matched up with this person named Tata, and that's that. So hang out in the town, have a couple beers, walk around a ton. It's beautiful. It's on a lake. Go see the lake, and I end up just like getting to chill and just really enjoy this city, and it was great. And I was like, all right, I'll make sure that I stop here before I go to Seattle tomorrow, so I can like go back to this coffee shop again and all that kind of stuff. And I am like sniffing around, seeing if there's like a music happening that night or if there's like a comedy show. They have had comedy come through the town, but I'm not going to be able to last minute throw this together. And it's also Monday night. There's no music or anything like that. So it's just the town was bustling. It's June, it's the beginning of June. It's the summer. The town had things going on. So I make my way back to Clark Fork, and I stop a few times just to keep enjoying the lake, and eventually I get back into town, and there's I think 233 of the 250 townspeople are just out, and I was like, what is happening here? So I go into the one bar that's there before I make my way up to my campsite, and I sit down, and I'm talking to the oldest lady that's ever existed, and she's from there, and she's like, oh yeah, so right now there is a high school graduation, but I'm not going there sober. And I was like, you are an angel. And I'm hanging out there. I'm going to call him her caretaker. That's not what he was. I think it was her nephew, but he's also she's old, and so he's also old. So he comes down, she's like, this is my new friend, Will. He's staying up there at the campsite, and he just went to Sandpoint for the day. And this guy starts talking to me, and he's like, oh, what are you doing in town? I'm like, well, I'm on a comedy tour, and I'm heading out west. And he's like, comedy? Oh, my God. He's like, I'm a musician. So we start chatting, and we talk about Nashville. He's gone through Nashville. We're doing the whole thing back and forth, just talking about the changes in comedy and music and everything that's happening on social media and all that kind of stuff. And he's like, yeah, I'm pretty much off all of it. And he's like, also, those years are way behind me or whatever. And so he's like, well, is there anywhere I can find you? I was like, well, what do you have? He's like, I have YouTube. And I was like, you can find me on YouTube. And so I have a nice little way to wrap it up, and that's what I think was the problem with this isolation, right? Like, isolation means you're by yourself. And once I got around people again, that's the thing about this whole trip is it didn't matter how anxious I got or how stressed I was. Once I got back around people, started having conversations, started to meet these strangers, I felt so much better. And that is something I really think up into this trip I was sort of losing. Even when I got sober, I was just driving for Uber all the time. And yeah, sure, I'd have conversations in my car, but I'm not going out. I'm trying to get out of debt. I felt very backwards. I felt like a part of me was gone because I was just, I don't want to complain and be like, oh, I'm just working all the time. I know everyone has to do that, but I just felt like I wasn't engaging with people. I wasn't having experiences, and that showed in my writing because I had nothing to talk about because I wasn't doing anything, And so that was what was so great about this trip is I was out doing stuff again and getting material and meeting people and being inspired, and it was great. So I wrap up things there. I go back to the campsite. Now that I have a better gauge, I feel a lot better. I ate at the bar before I went up. But I just hang out, I make a fire, and I finally get to chill. I take a cold shower again, and it ended being pretty solid overall. So next day I get up, pack up camp. I went to the little toll booth coffee shop, got a coffee there. Then I made my way to Sandpoint, and I went to the coffee shop there, got a video edited, and from there I have to make my way to Seattle. Specifically, I have to go to Bremerton first. So I have a bit of a haul ahead of me, but it's very manageable from where I'm at. So as I'm leaving, I look at Bumble, and I have a message from this person I matched up with named Tata. And she's like, what are you doing in Sandpoint? Which, to make a girl blush, And I was like, well, I was passing through, but I'm actually on my way out, or whatever. So we start chatting. I tell her about what I'm doing. She's, she's a traveler as well. So we just start chatting it up. And somehow I put together, we talk about it, that she went to Chapman University in California. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I have a friend that went to Chapman. And this friend is someone that we used to work at a camp together in Portland. Sorry, not in Portland, Maine. In Maine, outside of Augusta. A camp called Camp All-Star. And I was like, oh, I had a friend. And I say their name, and they were like, and I'm not going to say the friend's name out of just because they're not creative. They're not putting all their stuff out there all the time. They're a very private person, so that's why I'm just being a little coy about it. But I was like, oh, I know so-and-so. They went to Chapman. And she was like, what? That's my sorority sister. And I was like, wait a minute. Were you at this Halloween party at this time this year? And she was like, yeah. Yeah, I was. And I was like, I was at that party. And she was like, oh, you got to be. So we put together that we've met before, and it's been 15 years or whatever. But what are the odds that if I hadn't had a full-blown anxiety attack while in the woods in Clark Fork, gone down to town, been like, I need Wi-Fi, and they're like, go to the toll booth coffee shop, and I'm like, I need to party, and she's like, go to Sandpoint. I go all the way to Sandpoint, and then I'm like, I need to fuck, and she it out at me, and I'm like, I need to not sleep at this campsite. Pull out Bumble, match up with what I assume is the only attractive single woman in in all of Sandpoint. No offense, there was a lot of attractive women walking around, but I didn't see them on Bumble. And that person happens to be somebody that I partied with in Chapman University in Southern California in like 2010. What are the odds? And also funny, we're friends still. We chat almost every week. So it does, so that's the thing about these dating apps. It doesn't have to always be about finding a mate. Sometimes you find a friend. And that's where I'm going to end Chapter 7. All right. See you at Chapter 8 in Seattle. It's going to get fun again. I'm sorry if I spiked anyone else's anxiety with my franticness of this, but it kind of brought up some things, and I was feeling a certain way talking about a lot of it. But anyway, this has been Wilaker. And as always, intro and outro music by the fantastic Kenny Sharp. Take us away, Kenny.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.